we've heard feedback and seen in some of our survey data that employees feel they've been able to access and interact with more people, more of their senior leaders, more of their mentors, managers than ever before. Sometimes it's as simple as a video call, but it's one more thing when you think about the silver linings of the pandemic. People have been able to have so many of those additional interactions.
More mentorship, please. But what exactly do we mean by that? Stick around and we'll explore together. You'll get concrete tips on how to expand your network and reach out to folks you want to learn from. You'll learn how to be a better mentor and mentee. And you'll also find out why you want to be espresso and not coffee. Hello and welcome to the AIGA Design Podcast. My name is Lee-Sean Huang, Director of Design Content and Learning here at AIGA, the Professional Association for Design. In this very special edition of the show, we'll be exploring the topic of mentorship. We'll also be experimenting with a new format here that brings in a diversity of voices and perspectives into a single episode. The voice you heard at the top of the episode belongs to Julia Lamb, Workforce Strategy Partner at PwC. Julia and her colleague, Humberto Salicetti, shared some of their research on workplace and cultural transformation with us back in the summer of 2021 in an episode of The Restart. Now here's Megan D., graphic designer and associate professor at Virginia Tech. Megan is also a former co-chair of the AIGA Design Educators community.
Mentors can help provide everything from professional advice to emotional support, and they can give access to networks and communities that might have otherwise been out of reach.
As Megan put so succinctly, we recognize the value that mentors can bring to our creative careers. We also recognize that mentorship has a role to play in addressing issues of equity in the design community. Next up, Gabby Hernandez, multidisciplinary social designer, researcher, and associate professor of graphic design at the University of Arkansas. Gabby is also a former member of the AIGA Design Educators Steering Committee and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force.
There is a huge factor that has to do not only with gender, but also with our socioeconomic background, right? What are we used to? Not having mentors or role models that would help us understand those processes, right? People like us who would know this is how you need to negotiate. This is the language that you need to use. This is, those kinds of things that are so basic, but women of color, for example, there is a big gap in that kind of knowledge.
These days, we need mentorship more than ever to learn from each other and to lift up the design community as we deal with unprecedented challenges and seize upon new opportunities. Mentorship can benefit both mentors and mentees, and over the course of our careers, ideally, we can continue to play both roles. Here's Art Taylor, President and CEO of the Better Business Bureau's Wise Giving Alliance. Art spoke with AIGA's Executive Director, Benny F. Johnson, in a fireside chat in November of 2021.
I love being reverse mentored. Like you, I'm sure you get lots of people coming to you saying, I would like for you to be my mentor. Can we talk? And I love that. But I tell them it's a two-way street. Don't just expect that I'm going to be mentoring you. I want you to mentor me. I want to know what's going on in spaces where I might be blind a little bit. So I think the reverse mentoring concept is really important, especially in a world that's moving as fast as ours. We got to continue to reinvent, and we got to continue to learn, and we got to continue to experiment and try different things in order to make our lives fulfilling and meaningful and accomplish the objectives that are important to us.
But what do we really mean by mentorship? How do we give and receive mentorship effectively? We're going to explore various facets of mentorship in this episode, as well as some related concepts like coaching and sponsorship. I'll be chatting with board members from the New York chapter of AIGA to learn more about their mentorship program, and we'll also revisit the voices of experts who have spoken with the AIGA community in the recent past to give us some additional advice and gems of wisdom.
My name is Jane Kim. I'm currently a strategist at Salesforce in a team called Lighthouse, which is a customer-centric corporate innovation and strategy consultancy. And in the context of the mentorship program here, I'm one of the starters for the program. along with Casper here. And now I have the pleasure of working with Janine to evolve the program. And I also serve on the board for AIGA New York.
Hi, I'm Casper. I'm also very happy to be here today to share my experiences. I'm a partner at Synoptic Office. We're a multidisciplinary design studio, and I also teach at Parsons as an assistant professor of communication design. As Jane mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of the mentorship program for AIGA New York, and I'm currently serving as the vice president of operations for AIGA New York.
Hi, everyone. Thrilled to be here as well. My name's Janine Toro. I'm a lead UX strategist at a company called Instrument. My main client is Google and Alphabet Inc. I am also a professor at Pratt in their MFA Communication Design program. And recently, School of Visual Arts, I am teaching in their grad program that I actually attended, which is the Design as Author and Entrepreneur. And I'm on the AIGA board, and that's why I'm here helping Jane with the mentorship program. I often thought about mentorship as a one-to-one relationship. I had colleagues of mine saying, Janine, what do you mean? You're like a super mentor. I was taken back for a minute. And I said, what does that mean? They go, you're a teacher. You're running workshops. You're in the community doing things. So to me, I think mentorship always in my mind instantly associated with the one-on-one thing. And I didn't realize that I was being a mentor without doing it one-on-one. And I think that's super important that there are different ways of mentoring. Sometimes it does have to be personalized. Like there are different ways of mentorship that are effective for different times and people, right? So sometimes one-on-one is more effective, but I never thought of it as a non-one-on-one thing before.
Just as a mentor might have a one-to-many relationship with many mentees, a mentee might have many mentors at once or over the course of their career. Here's Pentagram partner and AIGA medalist Michael Bierut. Michael gave a keynote presentation about mentorship at the first ever AIGA Portfolio Festival in the summer of 2020.
I have a very, very broad idea of what mentorship is all about. I resist the idea that you have one mentor and you find that person and you say, I would like you to be my mentor, or someone comes up to you and says, can I be your mentor? And then you kind of create this formal relationship that involves a bunch of formal steps. I think if you play your cards right, and if you are ready to have a nice long life doing this, you can have more than one mentor. You can have 5 mentors, you can have 50 mentors, you can have 500 mentors. I think that mentors are out there and they're more accessible than ever.
I really relate to what Michael Bierut spoke about at the AIGA portfolio review when he discussed mentors as essentially being people that you may or may not know. They can come in a variety of forms. I think about mentors being people who essentially have a roadmap to where you have yet to travel. And so you can learn a lot through relationship or through observation. I've not had a formal mentor at any stage in my career. I'm a first generation college student and I actually attended the HBCU where I'm currently teaching. So I know and can relate to the students, and in all of the areas that I see them being very unsure about their journeys and even unsure about kind of what questions to ask. While I have not had a formal mentor, a lot of what I've learned has been really just kind of recognizing the ways that other people have handled situations that I've yet to kind of be a part of. I started teaching very young also. I was 27 when I was given my first teaching job. And so my supervisor, my department chair at the time, really became a very important kind of person in my life.
You just heard Kalina Sayles reflecting on Michael Bierut's keynote and sharing a bit about her own experience with mentorship. Kalina is an associate professor of graphic design and chair of the Department of Art and Design at Tennessee State University. She also serves on the AIGA Design Educators Community Steering Committee. Kalina was speaking on a panel discussion on mentorship in academia hosted by the AIGA DEC in January of 2021. Now here's Nita Verma, graphic designer and associate professor at the University of Notre Dame, speaking on that same panel.
To me, mentorship is a lot like a lifeline that you sometimes need when you do not know where to go, or you're navigating a circumstance that you have not been before. And mentorship, I think, is something that doesn't stop at the young or the restless. I think it sustains over time. And because the point is we are constantly growing, and that means we are exploring new frontiers. If you're not doing that, you shouldn't be doing design.
Now let's check back in with Jane Kim and Casper Lam from AIGA New York.
I think the biggest maybe difference between mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship is that mentorship is really about your long-term growth and getting support for that long-term relationship. And really in all facets of your life, not just about your career journey, but it's also about your personal growth, your leadership growth in general in your life. And also it's not about, you wanting to get your next promotion. Sometimes it is about that, but it's a lot, I think, greater than that. Not just getting to your short-term goals, but really looking at your personal goals and then long-term career goals, and then really helping people unlock their self-confidence. I think the most important thing as a mentor is helping people really figure out what they really can do, even when you don't see it, encouraging them to really think about their full potential and realize it.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a quote from Isaac Newton. He said that if he had seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. And in my mind, mentorship really is about those special people that have gone ahead and have been willing to sort of take a pause and to reflect and to come back through a path that they've trailblazed to help those that are on that similar path. And I think that kind of spirit of community and leadership, that mentorship really is about building up that community and these long-lasting relationships between both the mentors and the mentees.
So coaching and sponsorship and mentorship, I think that's kind of like the trifecta that you need in your life to really progress in your career and your personal life. Coaching, it's more, I would say, more short-term focused. And oftentimes your coaches could be your managers who are really close to your work, your day-to-day kind of performance, and pinpointing the areas where you can really pivot or improve specifically. And then sponsorship, oftentimes those are your kind of executives in your company or, higher ups in the company who can really advocate for you as you go for that next promotion or next role in your company or maybe elsewhere outside of your company. But then mentors are usually not your managers who don't have the say in your direct performance in the company, but just really deeply caring about you and your overall growth.
They're really long-term relationships, and that's really what sets apart a truly successful mentorship relationship, because they are meant to identify long-term developmental patterns, right, between both the mentors and the mentees. And sometimes those things emerge after a long period of reflection and doing, and then coming back and then having a conversation again. And so that really sets apart sort of mentorship from, the coaching and some of these other sponsorship or these types of relationships and setups.
Here's a perspective from Pek Ponpet, CEO and Chief UX Strategist at Impeccable. Pek appeared on a recent episode of Design Adjacent, hosted by AIGA's Executive Director, Benny F. Johnson.
Mentorship can take many forms. I've done several things. One, as someone who never went to business school or MBA school or done any real form of sales training, I've had to learn these skills and business. One type of mentor I turned to was books. So reading from past successful entrepreneurs and founders. So reading Sam Walton's biography, Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography, Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. So there's a lot of successful people who have biographies or autobiographies. I think their lessons and stories are great learning lessons that you don't have to have that connection with them, right? Like nobody that I just mentioned know who I am. But by virtue of them having their book published, we can learn from them. So that's one. And then also, of course, people in your network that have done it before, try to nurture and curate that network of yours. So even now, I keep in my company an inordinate amount of people in the agency world or other agency owners. I have a funny term I call them frenemies, even though I don't really think they're competitors. I don't think we compete in any way in the sense that any more than an Italian restaurant in Chicago competes with an Italian restaurant in DC, or even the same Italian restaurants in the same city. I think people have their preferences, right? So it's good to have that network because one, they can relate to you. They've been through your journey or are going through your journey. So having a peer group of people doing similar things. So if you're an agency owner, it behooves you to know agency owners, or even agency owners who are maybe a step above you, who are where you want to be. So that's another. And then and this is something that it's in the past couple years is actual coaches. So business coaches and these type of things. When I was learning piano, I took piano lessons from someone. When I was learning tennis, I took tennis lessons from someone. But the thing that has the most financial risk versus reward, people are going to figure it themselves out on their own and bang their head against the wall makes no sense, right? So now looking back on it, it's like, well, I think everybody should try to get a business coach.
Peck makes a great point about how targeted guidance and advice for our businesses or for our career is sometimes worth paying for. Robert Smith is an author, agency owner, and creative director based in Ottawa, Canada. He appeared on a live stream with me in December of 2021. In this clip, Robert explains some of the value of his professional coaching and mentorship practice.
For a while there, I was calling myself a coach, but I didn't feel that really defined what I do, is I really do weave in some of my teaching. So, for example, with my one-on-ones, when I'm mentoring, I'm using the term mentoring right now, there's always homework. I always give them homework that I can review, that we can go over. So it's a guided process. So whether it's career development or it's developing their freelance or agency, all these different paths, I've got workbooks and things like that. So I don't think that fits in the coaching category necessarily, or the mentoring. It's kind of a hybrid. I think the biggest thing is focus, and they don't come to me identifying that as an issue. I need more focus, or they come to me. At the end of the day, we're creative people and we love challenges and we love exploring and problem solving and things like that. And we're really good at it for our clients. But when I have people come in for coaching and that, they're like, okay, here's all the stuff that I'm doing. Whoa, okay. We have this need to be everything to everybody, right? So a lot of times what it's doing, whether it's their career path or they're building a freelance business or whatever, it's like, who do you want to speak to? How would you define your audience? What do you bring to the table? So again, a lot of this comes back to self-awareness, and we need to take ourselves through that process that we take our clients through. We're always doing that with our clients. Like, okay, well, you need to define your audience better. So who's our target audience? If we know these questions, we don't do them for ourselves. And just like with our clients, you're too close to the problem, right? You're making assumptions. And so you just need that sounding board in a lot of cases to help you just really get down. What I like to say is you don't want to be coffee. You want to be espresso. You want to be small and strong.
In Robert's case, he successfully articulated his value proposition and turned giving advice and sharing expertise into an independent business venture. In other contexts, people with power and influence within larger organizations can stand to step up more, or sometimes to step back. Here's design founder, startup advisor, and coach Andy Budd from a never-heard-before interview that we recorded back in the summer of 2020.
There's been some conversations recently around encouraging people to look at sponsorship rather than mentorship. Mm-hmm. And I think this is all kind of focused, particularly in the last few weeks and months around kind of Black Lives Matter. And I think there is a trend for people in positions of power, gatekeepers, what have you, to sort of be out there offering opinions and offering advice, but not necessarily offering opportunities. Mm. So I am very much, particularly if you work in a large organization, I definitely am very much pro the idea of being an advocate for somebody rather than just being a mentor, and actually finding opportunities for them to do work that is promotion worthy, putting them in front of influential people. When somebody comes and asks you for a speaking opportunity, for maybe to push somebody else in your team forward as well.
All right, let's check back in with Casper, Janine, and Jane from AIGA New York.
join the AIGA New York mentorship program.
Applications are open.
Yeah, if you go to AIGA New York mentorship.org, you'll be able to sign up for the 2022 cohort, and the application will close end of February. I just want to put it out there that we read all the applications personally, thoroughly, because we really care about the community and the people who are joining this program. It's a combination of a one-on-one matching. So every mentee who joins a program will get a mentor or multiple mentors. And then we do a series of events or discussion events to really bring the community together. And sometimes we do a corporate partnership. Last year, we partnered up with Salesforce to actually bring in more industry experts to talk about specific topics. And we focus on diversity, equity, inclusion at the time, but it could be around many different topics. So our main focus, I would say, is a one-on-one mentorship, but also we try to create the community where people can have more discussions and can reach out to other mentors in the program and facilitate more kind of organic coffee chats. And we want everyone to succeed, whether that's mentee or mentor. We put a lot of care into it. We read every word that you write, and we are always striving to do our best in terms of doing the matching and creating a better community. So we piloted this program. I think, Casper, we were brainstorming around this back in 2018. We did a really small pilot 2019. And then we kind of grew it out into, like 400 plus applicants coming in. We are continuously working on it. We're going to test new things and try new methods, new kind of digital platforms as we go. So stay tuned. And we're very excited to have everyone.
Yeah, the time frame actually is an interesting one too, because we wanted to create a structure where there was some training wheels to set up the relationships at the get-go, allow those relationships to begin to develop, but then also offer an opportunity for those relationships to grow organically, which is, of course, one of the hallmarks of a true successful relationship. And so by giving a little bit of structure and just enough structure, we hope that the relationships could take organic root rather than feeling rote or forced. I think that that's where the first 3 months become really important because, as Jane mentioned, there are some activities that are meant to just get everybody started, right? To get their feet wet, suggested activities, suggested meetups. Cadence is also a really important factor. We suggested that the mentors and the mentees meet at least once a month so that there is at least a touch point there. And from there, we basically opened up the box to allow them to continue those meetings, at their own pace.
That struggle is definitely real. But I think, first of all, when we do the matching, so we collect some information from both mentees and mentors about what type of support the mentees are needing and what type of a mentor they might be looking for, their kind of ideal profile of their mentor. For the mentors too, we ask them about, is this your first time mentoring? Are there any specific areas where you want to provide more mentorship on? So hopefully the matching that we initially do, they are somewhat well matched. But there are times when we actually get some inquiries from mentors and mentees saying, okay, like we've tried it out, we've had conversations, but maybe could we look at rematching or something like that? We try to recognize that the mentor-mentee breakup is a real thing and it's an okay thing if you are not well matched. So we recognize that and we would kind of provide a different mentor or mentee so they can continue the conversation. But we also encourage people to continue the conversation for about 3 or 4 times, because sometimes when you meet your mentor and they're in the different industry or different kind of function of design, and you might be thinking, okay, there's nothing this mentor can do for me. But I think oftentimes when you just have the conversation, there are a lot of things in your kind of career navigation that is industry agnostic or design function agnostic. So there's still a lot of things that you can take away from your conversations.
Let's talk about your own experiences as mentors and mentees. What have you gotten out of those experiences?
Jane actually was one of my students from way back when in one of the interaction classes that I taught. And we had kept up a relationship throughout the years. We would always talk about, where she was as she moved from different jobs, moving through different trajectories and things like that. And this idea of mentorship kind of came up in one of the conversations that we were having over lunch. And we decided to just go ahead and do it because the entire experience of being a mentor in my role as a teacher on a regular basis, the students and the mentees teach me far more than I think I'm teaching them. I mean, it's really a two-way relationship. And for us to be able to create something together to allow that relationship to flourish in others is really quite an exciting thing. It has been extremely rewarding to be able to both be a mentee when I was much younger and now to be a mentor to a lot of students, and also to kind of see how those roles begin to shift and change and to develop in each person's life.
I've had many mentors so far in my career journey, including Casper, and I'm someone who kind of pivoted my career from design to the business side along the journey. So along that career path, I've met many mentors in complete unrelated areas and industries. And I think one of my first ever mentors was actually someone in the sales organization at IBM when I was part of IBM Design. And I was just inspired by his leadership. It had nothing to do with design or the path that I wanted to take, but I just wanted to better understand how the business was running and how he was leading his team. And I just approached him to kind of learn about it. So for me, the mentorship at that point, it kind of broadened my perspectives, just knowing that, mentorship isn't about just directly in my career function, and it could be many other people. So that was actually, I think, my first experience with mentorship. And then he told me a really great story about his kind of best mentor in his life. His relationship with him is he can call him up at 2 a.m. if he's struggling or going through challenges, and he knows that the mentor will answer and support him. And that, I think, became like my North Star in terms of me mentoring other mentees. Like me, I want to be that person for the mentee. I want to be able to provide the tactics or hold space sometimes and just have a conversation to provide the support. So I think now when I think about how I can provide mentorship, that's definitely something I think about.
That makes sense why you say you're always available any time of day. It makes so much sense now. I wonder if your mentor responds right away or if there's a bandwidth on that 2 a.m. window of response time. No, but I think that's great. It's like the idea of knowing that, like, I'm being silly, but like the idea of someone being there for you, right? Like no matter what time of day, and that you're going to get a response and there's someone cheering you on. And that's so important, especially now in just the state of how things are of us not always being in a physical space together. While I have never formally been a mentor, I guess I've never formally signed up for a program. I've led a lot of programs, and I have had so many mentors that I have looked up to that I kind of chased around, and that I was like, I want to be like this person. I need to learn how they got to where they got. And I think just by asking questions and being bold and just like going up to these people and being like, hey, can I have a coffee with you? They'll say no. And then you just move on. And there are some people that say yes. And those people that say yes, you end up talking to and learning from and building more from.
You don't want to be coffee. You want to be espresso. You want to be small and strong.
I'll also say that I've had some organic sort of mentees form in my life that I didn't even know I was mentoring people. Whereas people are like, what do you mean, Janine? You're my mentor. You mentor me all the time. And I'm like, apparently I need to read up on what a mentor is, because I'm helping people all the time and I don't even know. So I think there's sort of like this beauty in having people that you're kind of just talking to, but you're being their mentor, but you're just having a conversation. And I think that's really, again, like what it's about, like the not knowing that you're doing it.
Yeah, I think that kind of stance of going into the mentorship conversations without the feeling of like, oh, I'm here to teach you something. But actually, you're there for reverse mentorship too. You know, just have the conversation, learn from one another, and hold space when you need to, provide support when you can. I think that's just really important.
Sometimes mentor-mentee relationships come out of a formal matching program like the one at AIGA New York, or they can also emerge organically without us even being fully conscious of what was happening at the time. In other cases, we need to be deliberate and proactive in networking and reaching out to people we want to learn from. Here's David Asari, former president of AIGA San Francisco and faculty member at the California College of the Arts, with some advice and encouragement.
So networking just means you're connecting with other people, and be clear about why you're trying to connect with them. Like being clear about it, you're not just trying to get like opportunistic look and then like go after this person, like slightly stalkery. But the idea is that what is it that you can offer them as well as that you can learn from them? And so that's why the idea of networking in terms of mentorship, right? What do you have to offer to other people? Like I feel super fortunate as a teacher, like I get to work with all these amazing students. And as a student, keeping in mind when I was a student, like I really struggled at a certain point. And what saved me was having an amazing teacher who then became my mentor, who later became my friend, and then ultimately was a colleague in terms of being faculty. So seeking out those opportunities and not being afraid to ask is also important. Like someone's like, oh, I'm just a student, or I'm just starting out. Like, my point is like, why not you? And if you don't ask, you don't know. And either people are going to say yes, or they're going to say no, right? So I think that's really an important part of networking is, again, not to undervalue yourself. Like, oh, I'm just so-and-so. Like, no. So going up and talking to someone at a conference and then introduce yourself and actually being prepared to ask intelligent questions or to speak about their work. Like that's part of networking.
But what about when we can't just walk up and start a conversation with someone at a conference or a networking event? By the way, I'm looking forward to more of those happening in person again soon. In the meantime, here's designer and author Ram Castillo with some advice on how to research and reach out to potential mentors and gatekeepers. This is from a live stream Ask Me Anything that Ram did with AIGA back in May of 2020.
I think the most important thing to do is to give yourself a minimum number of outreach messages that you're going to deploy. Okay. Because I don't want this to be a sort of like a willy-nilly thing that is a word that we know of as expanding your community. Yes, it's that, but I want to get hyper practical here. Think of it in two ways. Who do you need to contact right now to help you move the needle on your desired outcomes, on your goals, or what type of people do you need to contact? An example I'll give right now is if you are looking to deliver some type of work, well, who for? Is it small businesses? Go down deeper. What kind of small businesses do you want to do freelance work for? And in what sector? And in fact, go down deeper. How do the founders look like? Are they male? Are they female? Are they startup? Are they established? Really go down there and curate who you are going to target. And then ask yourself, well, hypothetically, quickly form a viewpoint on who they are and take a punt, take a guess as to where you think they hang out. Is it Instagram? Maybe not. Is it LinkedIn? If it's LinkedIn, perfect. Then you can use the search tool and really go down to city, location as well. Type in their job title. There was someone that was asking me yesterday about getting a job in this climate. And if you want to get a job in this climate, well, who are the decision makers? Who are the hiring people? Well, the titles for people that are hiring are going to be outside of creative directors and design directors are really going to be creative resource managers. So type that into LinkedIn, creative resource manager, type in traffic manager, type in hiring manager. These are the things where we can get really, really practical. So when you are networking, you are targeting people that are your primary audience. And the question about fresh graduate who's just starting out in branding and design, pitching yourself in this crisis, I guess it's the perfect time to ensure that you've got the portfolio, your design portfolio and your LinkedIn profile at the very least. Of course, if you have your PDF resume or CV, that's great too. But you need to have those basics down pat, ensuring that your portfolio is strong. And because that's apart from an introduction, which should always be personalized, there is going to be a quick action of skimming your email or your message and clicking the substantiation of your claim, right? A proof point. It's no different to us marketing a product. You are the product. So when you are doing outreach, whether you're a fresh graduate or not, contextualize your outreach message. Don't do the copy and paste template thing. Really understand the person and find a connection to that person. That might be, if you're a fresh graduate, and I use this example a lot, it might be the fact that you have someone that is a creative director that you want mentorship from, or that might be able to influence you getting in the door for that company. Stalk them on Twitter, on Instagram, find a nugget that you can find common ground in. And if there's an article they wrote, talk to them. That should be part of your intro. There's this one article that you spoke about that really got to me. Insert that into your email. But there's some tips.
Now back to Jane, Casper, and Janine.
I would say one of the reasons why Casper and I started this program is because there are a lot of early career professionals who are just starting out their career who haven't quite learned how to strike up the conversation to have the coffee chat.
You don't want to be coffee. You want to be espresso. You want to be small and strong.
You know, it's a skill that you kind of grow as you progress in your career and you get more comfortable with it. But if you're just coming out of school, maybe you don't know how to approach someone that you really look up to or that you're inspired by at a conference. So we wanted to at least create a program and just provide some support and guardrails for these early career professionals to teach them how to do that. So in the long run, they can actually get better at it and they can do it on their own. So, you know, they're not kind of falling behind or just wondering how they can create this mentorship. And we actually get a lot of questions and inquiries from the mentees who join the program asking about, can you give me some coaching on how I can approach someone? You know, what can I say? What should I ask? How should I prepare for the first conversation? So we wanted to kind of provide that support.
So what kind of people are you looking for on the mentee and the mentor side?
It's always a great question. On the mentee side, I think the growth mindset, someone who's really passionate about growing in their career and their personal life. Sometimes it's about specific skill sets too. So whether that's leadership, public speaking, do they want to get better at negotiating, some kind of manager conversations? So when you have more specific goals, I think it's always more helpful for the mentee. So someone who's passionate about their career journey, who wants to learn, who wants to meet people. And then in terms of the mentor side, someone who has a capacity and also who is well connected in the industry. And it's sometimes we look for specific mentors who have made career pivots because we're getting more inquiries from mentees who are switching from graphic design to user experience or, you know, design to business, various areas. And when we say design mentorship, we have a broader definition, I would say. So it's all the design roles and functions, but also it includes product management, business strategy, consulting, or someone who owns a studio, just in case a mentee wants to actually, you know, go on an entrepreneurial path.
Yeah, design and design adjacent, I think should be a good way to think about it.
What are the qualities of a good mentor?
I think it starts with listening first. You know, approaching any type of new relationship is always very difficult. And there are often a lot of assumptions and baggage that one brings to the conversation. And so in that type of relationship, especially when you're put together with a mentee, it oftentimes happens because the mentors have an expectation of, oh, this mentee will automatically like the things that I like or want to do the things that I've already done. But that's actually sometimes not the case. They might be placed with the mentor because of certain other intangible qualities, or maybe for advice that allows the mentee to pivot. And so listening first is actually a really important skill to begin to understand what the motivations and intentions are for the mentee. The other thing too is that the mentee sometimes, as we had talked about, they perhaps don't even know what questions to ask. And so part of the listening is also asking the questions to allow the mentee to reflect on their current situation so that the mentor can begin to piece together a little bit of the needs and the aspirations of the mentee.
I totally agree. And I think that having the capacity, I think just coming with a lot of mental capacity to soak it in and listening, and that's definitely first. And I think growth mindset as a mentor is definitely important because you're not just coming in, as I said before, just to teach someone. You're actually coming in to learn something back and apply it back in your life as well. So that's really important. I think also one of my favorite stories that happened last year in the mentorship program, our two-time mentor, our star mentor, Crystal Jeffs. So she had a mentee who was trying to pivot from a graphic design job, I believe, and she had a passion in kind of exhibition and, you know, and like a gallery world. And she just didn't know how to kind of pivot her career. And she was set in the mindset of, okay, this is my job. This is my side passion, and the two can't be married. And I think what Crystal did amazingly was that she just really empowered her to rethink about, actually, no. Like, why do you think that that's impossible? Those two can be definitely married, and you're going to get a new role so you can be happy in your day-to-day job. And at the end of the mentorship program, she actually ended up landing a new job as a designer at her dream museum or a gallery. And that was just really empowering to see how, okay, this person just found new self-confidence and realized a whole new world. And I think that is a true mentor, really like helping you find new self-confidence in what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think what's so beautiful about that is that it's about the mentee discovering who they are or what they can be capable of. It's not necessarily the mentee wanting to become a mini-me version of the mentor. I think one of the challenges that I find myself in the older I get is when younger designers come and reach out to me and they want to do an informational interview or something like that. They ask me about like, oh, how did I get into UX? And it's been so long that it's like, you can't really use that playbook anymore, right? It's like, I was 20 something and the bar for technical knowledge was really low back then. There was no, like, a lot of the academic programs that exist now did not exist back then. So like, it's different, right? Just the expectations of like the table stakes are different. How do you deal with that? Especially as like mentors get more senior, or maybe more removed from like, what is it like to break into an industry that's changed so much? Like, there's still something valuable there, I think, about sharing your story and sharing your experiences. But what happens when like maybe some of those specifics of the playbook are kind of obsolete?
Well, I think that's where some of the matching process actually comes in, because when we do the initial matching, we do consider sort of the distance between the mentor and the mentee in terms of their trajectory and their design, in their design journey, right? Different mentors can offer different types of experiences but they may not be appropriate to the mentee at different times. And so we do try to make sure that the distance is not too great, because if it's too great, then it ends up being something that's more aspirational, that's unactionable. But if it's too close, then it's maybe not so helpful. We want something like in the middle of the Goldilocks zone. At least that's what we found. You know, it may be different. And so actually, when the mentorship program first started, you know, we had a lot of different types of mentors and mentees that were applying, and they were seeking, you know, very different things. You know, some of the more seasoned and experienced mentees, you know, really wanted to focus less on their technical things or breaking into the industry and more about pivots and leadership. And these are things that only a more senior mentor could be able to provide. And, you know, the vice versa is true, right? For those that were newer to the industry, wanted to break in, right? We might have paired them with somebody that was, you know, not so senior, so that they could relay some of the more practical information and can learn from the environment and the situations that they were in that were more closer to the mentee situation. So that initial kind of setup, I think, was very important. But it is something that is, as you were saying, as we begin to walk further into our career, it's kind of fascinating to see how certain things that we found to be really important early on in our career may not be so important now, or perhaps we've taken it for granted and we're seeking new things. And that's part of the journey and the beauty of a mentorship relationship, because, you know, a successful one is meant to allow that journey to continue and to pivot and to go in different directions.
And just one thing to add, I think the beauty of mentorship is that when you are connected with one mentor, that mentor is oftentimes a master connector. So after you talk to the mentor, and if your mentor thinks that, okay, actually what you're asking about, my other mentee or my colleague could actually better advise on that, the topic that you're asking about, the mentor can connect you with another person. It just, you know, creating this master web and ecosystem of mentors in your life.
Yeah. The default should be that you have multiple mentors.
Consider maybe you have a mentor who has 4 years of experience, and then you have another mentor who is more kind of your long-term aspirational goal type of a mentor. So you can get different types of advice and you can self-reflect and kind of take those advice forward. I think that's why it's just always important to at least start a conversation, even if the mentor isn't the typical ideal profile that you had in your mind when you first came to the program or when you first kind of striking up the conversation. Once you get connected, you never know who else you could get connected with.
And there's also transferable skills, right? There may be other skills that you could learn from this person. This goes back to format, but recently we had an event actually, and we had people talk through sort of their career journeys, if you will, and how they ended up in the positions that they were in. And what was super fascinating about it was for all levels, meaning that if I wanted to learn from you, I could learn from you, but I could also learn from someone more junior, right? So I could figure out where am I in my career and let me go to that person, or you could listen to them all. But I think there's something unique about that as well. I think it was a lot for us when we were talking about this is about the community aspect, right? Like even some of our board members, they're not in New York. I mean, and then we actually had this whole conversation about like, do you still need to be in New York to be a New York designer type of thing? And like, what does that look like now in this landscape, right? So again, like I think it is focusing on our NYC community, but also expanding it out. And then again, connecting to other people that could be super helpful. Say maybe like, I'll be honest with you. My company that I'm working for now is a West Coast role. It's based on the West Coast. And I've always worked East Coast companies. And I do think it's very different. So I think it is very valuable to even maybe have a West Coast and an East Coast mentor, learn about the different mentality and just how the workflow is at different orgs by location as well.
And that takes us back full circle to where we started this episode, with the needs and the possibilities for forging meaningful mentorship relationships across geographies and also across job functions, specialties, and industries. Mentorship comes in different shapes and sizes. It can evolve organically or start from a formal matching program or blossom from some cold online outreach to a stranger. I've certainly learned a lot about mentorship putting this episode together, and I hope you have too. Maybe it's inspired you to find a mentor or to become a mentor, or both, or start a mentorship program in your own community. We would love to hear about what you think about themes from the episode, or give us some feedback about our experiment with this new format, and let us know what other topics you'd like to hear about. Email us a note or drop us an MP3 voice recording at podcast@aiga.org. You can connect with us on social media at AIGA Design, leave us a review wherever you get podcasts, and tell a friend or colleague about the show. You can learn more about AIGA New York's mentorship program at aiganymentorship.org. Thanks again to all of our guests who appeared on the show, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Lee-Sean Huang, Director of Design Content and Learning here at AIGA, the Professional Association for Design. Oh, and one more time, a thimbleful of advice from Robert Smith.
You don't want to be coffee, you want to be espresso. You want to be small and strong.
Stay small, stay strong. Until next time.